Hello, I'm Super Orange Cat here today with my review of episode 2 of the Housing Complex C anime that aired last night on Toonami. So I'm going to do what I normally do, give some things on that I liked about this episode, and then some of the things I didn't really like about this episode, and go from there. One thing I liked about this episode was it really helped keep up the weird atmosphere around Kurosaki that the first episode had. Like, it always felt like this place was just off in a way you can't quite put your finger on, but in a way you can't really possibly ignore. It was one of those things that it really just gets to you, but you don't know why, and that just like it hits that weird uncanny valley of sorts. And I really love the atmosphere that this episode had. Another thing I liked is the character of Khan. If you don't know, Khan is the big, strong Middle Eastern intern worker, the one that tries to communicate but can't speak. Well, it's supposed to be Japanese, but in the dub version, it's English all that well. Yeah, I just like him. He seems like a big old like soft pillow of a guy. And at the end, they're gonna keep doing these things to be like, this guy might be evil, this guy might be evil, but he's gonna end up being like one of like he's the good guy in the end. That's how they're setting it up. And that kind of goes into one of the things I really don't like about this episode. Since I've kind of run out of things I really do like about this episode, I'm gonna go into that. One, they are choreographing the heck out of the whole switcheroo of, oh, these intern workers really aren't evil at all. Because they're going to have everyone be so suspicious of them, and it's going to be revealed that they're actually the good guys and they would probably help Kurosaki from whatever the hell's happening here. For example, they already kind of showed this with Khan being the one that tried removing the fish into the woods. And outside of that, you really have everything. They're trying to set up this atmosphere of, oh, the only person that could have put the dead body in the sauce had to be Khan. And it's so obvious that they're choreographing this. And it really sucks when you only have 4 episodes to build this mystery and you spend so much time on such a trope of horror that no one's falling for. I don't think anyone seriously thinks that any of the interns are going to be the bad guys in the end. And another thing I didn't like was kind of going into that, the plot just dragged this episode. The first half of this episode was basically setting up this whole thing with, oh, there's a temple on Kurosaki, and they kind of go a little bit into the Kurosaki people's beliefs of, oh, a bunch of things about Moss, and then we believe at some time we're gonna meet our deceased loved ones. And the only thing I can say to that, which makes it intriguing, is usually when someone says that, they also imply, oh, we'll see them in the afterlife. When we die, we're going to see them. They never say that here. They almost say that in such a way and imply, oh, the dead will just rise from the ground at some point. We'll just see him right here. I think that's going to be one of the little twists they might throw in at the end where, oh, the dead security guard who gets killed at the end of this episode, he will rise from the grave like it's a book of Revelations or something, but I digress. Another thing I didn't like about this episode is, and this is a small thing, but it got me. You might notice in the first couple episodes, there would be some of these scenes where it would be the old people just talking outside, like underneath that small overhang. And again, this is supposed to be the middle of the summer, so it would make sense, but you would hear this cicada noise. If you're from the South, or if you're, I guess, from Japan, you know what a cicada sounds like, and they can be quite loud. And I know they're supposed to be loud, but it got to the point where the FX department of this made them mix the audio for the cicadas so loud at points you can actually not even hear the older people. It's something I didn't notice in the first episode, but it got another gear higher in this episode, and it kind of got to me. I didn't really like that. And another thing about, again, and this goes back to the whole plot dragging. This is 4 episodes long. We are currently halfway through this entire series. It does not feel like we're remotely near the halfway point in this. First episode, it felt like, okay, they're going to make this a simple but sturdy plot. They're not going to overthink things, and we can get a satisfying 4 episode long run here. This episode, they stopped the plot to go into this lore of the island, or wherever they are, Kurosaki. And it just took up so much time that it was just kind of grating to a point. Like, and it really just really took away from it doesn't take away from the experience now, but trust me, it's looking more and more like they're gonna have to rush through things by the end here. And it's gonna be a lot like the Fully Cooley sequels where they rush through things so fast that you don't really get a satisfying ending. And another thing I didn't like, and this is not as much the anime's fault as much as probably more Toonami's fault, and that is how they packaged the show. If you remember, after last week, the first episode, the little teaser for this episode had, "There's something in the sauce," and then Kimi reacting to it. And you might think, okay, usually when you do that, you do something that's at a moment relatively early in the episode, like probably within the first 5 to 10 minutes. No, this was the very last thing of this episode. This episode ended with Cammy looking at Shock inside the sauce pod and seeing an eyeball in there along with some flesh, implying that that was the remains of the old security guard that was killed the night before. And another thing here I noticed, and I'm going to put this in the title for my video here. If you're aware of 70s sci-fi movies, especially 70s sci-fi horror, you'll know there is this movie called Soylent Green. The big twist at the end of Soylent Green is, since this is a society that's dealing with overpopulation and they're running out of food, what they ended up doing was turn the remains of dead people or just straight up kill people to harvest their food and feed them to people. And this was packaged as a product called Soylent Green. And the big reveal at the end of the movie was Soylent Green was, in fact, people. And that's something that this reminded me of, especially with the green moss in the dead guy's room, and everyone reacts like, "Oh no, what happened to him?" And then they find his eyeball in the pot of sauce afterwards. And again, and this is going to set up some intrigue of, oh, the last person to touch the pot outside of the girls, because it can't possibly be the girls, is Khan, that weird Middle Eastern creepy guy. That big, strong guy can kill anyone. He probably did it. But then Toonami once again just killed that in the promo for the third episode where it shows Khan with the two girls inside that tunnel. So you know, at the very least, Khan doesn't get like detained or anything, or if he does, he escapes easily and is with the girls. Some point, honestly, considering the show, like the last scene of the third episode, in the tunnels reacting to weird stuff in there. And you think after that there'll be only 22 more episodes of the 22 minutes of the show. Again, this doesn't make sense. There is almost no way they're going to end this satisfyingly. And I was so optimistic after the first episode. I loved it because I didn't think they would try to stop the show for like 20 minutes and try to explain lore. Lore you didn't necessarily need. I get it. They're trying to do a comparison of the temple thing and that weird scene at the very beginning where a girl that kind of looked like Kimmy and Yuri, girls that kind of looked like Kimmy and Yuri were priestesses or something, and guys who kind of looked like the Middle Easterners, they were like hunting after them. And then they had the scene where it's like they get attacked by the interns. I'm going to tell you right here and now, one thing I am increasingly certain on is Kimmy and possibly Yuri, and maybe Yuri instead of Kimmy, are the bad guys in this. Think about it. Think about it. Have you seen, they might have shown this, have you ever seen Kimmy's mother? She talks to her mother, you never hear a response. So that implies, is the mother some weird eldritch entity? Is the mother Cthulhu? Is the mother aware of the Hikikomori guy who offed himself at the end of the first episode, what he was doing? And then the promo shows that all of his stuff in the tunnel got ripped up. So whoever it is, that feels like he was in on it and they had to dispose of him because he was going to uncover them first. So, who did this? Was it Kimmy? Was it Yuri? Was it one of the interns? Was it Yuri's father, who still kind of looks suspicious at this point? He doesn't do much. You've seen Yuri's mother react to things, but the dad just is like on the phone. He might be calling in, "I'm going to kill all these people, these old people." Remember that movie Cocoon with Wilford Brimley? I know. Diabetes. You know, that's just what it feels like to me. Maybe we get something satisfying here. But I'm anticipating Kimmy's messed in the head. Yuri might be messing the head. They show some shots of her where it looks like she's sus as hell. And right now, I think that's the twist. Because everyone's so protective of Kimmy, and she's like this super sweet, innocent main character. It would make too much sense where she's going to end up being the villain in the end. She's the one who's controlling all these weird fish, eldritch entities, and her whole, like, happy-go-lucky 9-year-old girl personality is some fake thing. Watch her be like a 40-something-year-old woman like the movie Orphan. If you haven't watched it, that is an absolutely terrible horror movie, and I just told you what the twist was. A girl you think is like a 12-year-old is actually like in her 30s, and her whole thing is that, oh, she's just a little person. Oh, and she kills men. So what do you guys think? I'm a little down on this episode. I'm giving it a 5 out of 10. I am hoping they turn the ship around here in the next episode. What do you guys think? Leave your comments down below. I am the Super Orange Cat, and that is all.